Greetings, everyone. So I'm back. I had one strike, and the reason I had the strike was because you guys should know that I don't hold anything back. I'm usually not that person. And I titled one of my videos, Child R, the R word, is not out 2D. And I coded it with symbols. And it still got a strike. I appealed it, which it just proves that it is artificial intelligence because they claim that it's a human being that listens and watches your video. If they would have done that, it would have been, the appeal would have gone through. So, the pedos, they don't like when you're standing up for children. So, what I want to talk about tonight is, I was thinking about this as I took a nice walk outside today. It's beautiful here. That narcissism and I was thinking about how a lot of people that we would consider healthier people have narcissistic tendencies, or they might not even tendencies, but you or I might do something that a narcissist would do and not be a narcissist. But I don't want to get too deep into that. Like I said, the way I look at it, it's a constant. And it's always like these very manipulative, toxic, cruel, self-centered behaviors and tactics. It would really be interesting to see brain scans of people that are more narcissistic in nature versus an empath. And I know there are there's brain scans out there of psychopaths. But to my knowledge, nothing really done on narcissism. But honestly, I didn't really look too deep. I should go check that out. So I was trying to think of how I would just hold on a second. Traffic was a little bit louder than I wanted it to be. So narcissism in a nutshell. A lot of people don't want to study narcissism. They don't want to understand it. They don't want to understand toxicity. I personally think a lot of people that are very resistant to it are more narcissistic or toxic in nature. Because why wouldn't you want to learn what it is? It doesn't make any sense to me. But really, if you strip off everything and go to the bare bones of what narcissism is, it's manipulation right there. Not having any empathy. And a lot of people talk about this, especially Dr. Ramani. Man, she's amazing. There's a lot of channels that I like to listen to. I don't study it as much as I used to because I'm more into the law of attraction. To learn about that more, and magic, etc. But, I just don't feel a need for it as much anymore. So, if you strip everything down, it's all about manipulation. And really, I would use control in there, and I think control and manipulation go hand in hand. Anytime a person is very wrapped up in controlling another person or persons, it's narcissism. Absolutely narcissism. So, and the more covert, or what is the other word they use? Vulnerable type of narcissism, I'm here to tell you, it can be extremely hard to detect. So lack of empathy, manipulation and control. I think those two go together. Because why would another person need to control you or other people without, how would they do it without manipulation? It's just, it can't exist without the other. And something that I have stood by this for quite a while, and I mean this, how you treat other people, that is who you really are. And that goes for how you treat other people in your immediate family, your so-called friendships. When you go to the restaurant, how do you treat the waiter or the waitress? And we all know there's like a whole long, an entire video we could just do on that alone. Because depending upon the narcissist, sometimes they like to put on a real good show. So they might treat the waitress better than they treat their own daughter. But at the end of the day, how you treat other people, that's who you really are. Like, I was watching one of the Scientology videos today. Serge Domar did a really, I loved how he did this. He was focusing in on two LAPD crooked cops with this Scientology security guard. The security guard looked like he would be under 18 years old. He might have been 18. But they were just talking up a storm with him like everything was just fine. You see, that is an example of how you treat other people. So, I mean, well, it's a little deeper. So what I mean is, they're sitting there talking to this young man, and this young man looked really nervous. It actually made me cry. It was really sad. So you got these two really unhealthy looking LAPD cops. I mean, they don't look good at all. You could tell they don't take care of their health whatsoever. So you got them sitting there just hooting up a storm with the Scientologist. And I'm going to try not to swear, but this is related to narcissism. They're sitting there and acting like everything's just so hunky-dory. And like I said, Serge did like an amazing job. And I'm sure it's hard to contain himself. Eventually I'm going to get out to LA. I don't know when, how, or, it's going to transpire, but it will. But they're just sitting there acting like there's no problems going on there, when you know that young man is getting paid $47 a week. And they're getting I think a lot of them are getting like $180,000. It depends. Depends on their grade and where they're at and all that. Just hooting up a storm. That is most definitely narcissistic. And I'd have to know them more. That could even be psychopathic. I don't know enough. However, how you treat other people is who you really are. So to me, in my observation of that, it was like what they were doing was so artificial and fake. Standing there acting as if they don't know that this young man is probably working 60, 70, 80 hours a week with no real life, completely abused, and making $47 a week. And they couldn't be happier, those cops. So, and narcissism has so many different ways of showing itself or coming to be. I don't even know if that's how to word that, but like coming into fruition. Have you guys ever met, any one of you, have you ever met a narcissist that is genuine, authentic, and treats people well? I would venture to say that all of you would answer no, no, and no. And if there is a narcissist that happens to be acting in a kind and polite way, it's because they want something from you. They're trying to control the narrative, or they're trying to get something from you. I can use an example with myself. Years ago, I don't want to get into too much detail, but there was a narcissist in my vicinity who was trying to put my arm behind my back and make me paint some rooms for him. And he was just as sweet as pie when he needed that done, you know. And really, narcissism in a nutshell would be, how do you feel when you're around this person? And the unfortunate part about any kind of abuse, or really toxicity, there are a lot of people that are very toxic that are not narcissists. But if you're around a lot of toxicity and or narcissism or a combination thereof, eventually your intuition will be dulled. It might be dulled from exhaustion. It might be dulled because you have been shaped to fawn and fawn and fawn. And I've been looking more into the various the responses of trauma. You've got flight, what is it called? Yeah, flight, fawning. I can't think of all of them right now. My modus operandi is flight and fawn. So, if you've ever heard a person, and we've all been there, I think, if you've ever heard a person that says, I just want to keep the peace. You just want to keep the peace because you don't want this one person blowing up, going off, and screaming and hollering at everyone. So you're just trying to keep the peace. That right there is fawning. I think I would venture to say anyone that's listening to this video right now have fawned their ass off at a toxic, negative job. One day, if I'm feeling like it, I may do a whole playlist on the various jobs I've had. But I want to center on the whole narcissistic aspect. I don't know if I want to share that much of my personal life. I'm not sure yet. So maybe I'll code it. I don't know. How you feel when you're around a specific person or a workplace. How many of you guys have driven to a job, and the minute that you get there, like you've driven, you're there, you're in the parking lot, and you literally start to feel your neck tense up. You might even kind of have trouble breathing, which is like kind of a miniature panic attack, because you know that they're going to suck the life force out of you. And there's going to be all these, especially if you're working in a place there's multiple narcissists. And I used to go through this before I understood what narcissism was. But I just knew they weren't good people. But they're always picking at you, messing you up. I'm actually pretty sure I lost one of my jobs. This is years ago. I was doing administrative. I'm pretty sure I lost the job because I wouldn't sleep with the manager. And I guess that could be a whole nother, especially women. I mean, I think men go through it too, but women, we've definitely gone through that numerous times. But narcissism in a nutshell is control and manipulation. That's number one. 2, lack of empathy. 3, how do you feel? I would have to add in there, because Dr. Ramani talks about it all the time, as do a lot of other people that talk about narcissism, entitlement. I'm pretty good at recognizing it now, but honestly, I grew up in an environment where we weren't dirt poor, but I would say we were, back in those days, like lower middle class. And I never saw any type of entitlement in my parents. They grew up, they were from the era of the Depression, the World War II generation. So that's just not how they were bred. And I find myself a lot of times, if I'm around people that are like that, it literally kind of makes me want to vomit. Because they're so over the top. And they won't do this, and they won't do that, and they won't. I'm trying to think of an example. It's like, I don't like to pick on celebrities, but I'm just going to use like an example of, and I'm not talking about Paris Hilton, but I'm just thinking, do you guys remember when she came out? Like, young women like that were like, oh my God, look at these shoes, like, and that's totally cool to like fashion, right? I don't mean, I like fashion myself, but if you've ever been around people like that, it's like everything's all syrupy. Oh my God, look at this. This is amazing. Well, I don't walk out of the house for less than 10 grand. Or, really crazy statements. And the reason that people like this have to be so over the top is because internally inside, they don't feel good about themselves. And, we all have a little insecurity. I do. But, like, they take it to the extreme. I gotta get some water. You might get a man at work that is extremely lazy and not knowledgeable about the tasks of his job, but he'll get really, really angry when he doesn't get promoted. Or maybe someone else gets promoted before he does or whatever. That's like entitlement. Or, I don't need to drive down the LA freeway to go to my job. I have my driver pick me up, which is totally fine. But what I mean is, it's always like really over the top. It's okay for us as people to demand good in our lives. It's okay to demand the best. You want the best shoes, you want the best lipstick, whatever. That's fine. But when a person is doing these kinds of things in excess, that's where it's entitlement. And a lot of times when you're around someone who's acting like that, it's just like, you just want to say, shut the fuck up. Honestly. And it's weird to you, or you notice it because you were not raised like that, or like whomever you were around as a young person, you didn't get that memo, you know? Like I remember as a child, and I'm not saying this is good or bad, but this old saying, like a lot of old timers had, you have to finish everything on your plate, which I don't agree with that, but you know, that's like the opposite. That's the opposite of entitlement. You better eat this shit because you don't know where you're going to get another one. You know what I mean? But it's always like, it's kind of, this going to sound really weird, but it's like gooey. It's like candy, you know, like, it's so over the top, and their voices sound weird when they're talking about it, and it's like, oh my God. Like, I'm just thinking of a teacher from my past when I was young. Oh, my daughter went to the prom, and of course we had to go to uh Seven Pence, the best store, because she needed her prom dress to be, that specific feather of the ostrich. We had to just get that. We had to have that dress, like we had to. And then we had to call in a tailor because there aren't very many tailors that work with ostrich feathers. But then we had the ostrich feathers flown in, and then tailor made just for her shape, something like that, like real crazy shit. And it's because they're trying like inside they don't feel really good about themselves, so it's always got to be like over the top. And I don't think every single person that does things like that are narcissists. I don't. Like I would look at a lot of artists. Like I'm more artistic. Like I would consider myself an artist. I'd consider myself a lot of things, but we just tend to be like that. But it's like you just want to be over the top and just have a good time and go party, dance, whatever it is. But the difference between a narcissistic person is they are going to make damn sure that everyone in the group knows that they are better and superior to the rest of, like, the group or you. They will, because it's a narrative. It's a narrative. And we've all fallen into it. I've fallen into it so many times, it's sad. It really is sad. I kind of relate to Dr. Ramani, where I just kind of like being by myself nowadays. I really do. And hopefully I find some good, I'm hoping to find some healthy, good friendships. But man, shoot, I like staying in my little place, mind my business. So I'm just sitting here thinking, so I got the control manipulation. You guys got that. And trust me, I would tell you, if you're first learning about narcissism, if you delve deep into the various types of manipulation, your head will just spin in circles. It's insane. And I think the people that do more damage to people are the more covert, vulnerable. I don't know if they call them stealth. There's all kinds of names, but vulnerable and covert, they will F you up. And they'll smile while they're doing it. And I would tend to think a more covert, vulnerable narcissist would be I'm just forgetting what I was going to say. The dark triad. Oh, what is it called? Machiavellian. Tupac sings about Machiavelli. It's all about that Machiavellianism. That is, man. And I dealt with one of those kinds of folks a while back. They are, the level of manipulation that it's scary. It's really scary. And everybody on the outside world will think they are like Mother Teresa. And inside they are not that person. So, yeah, I don't need to make this a long video, but I think you guys got the drift. Those are the 4 things that I would really, really, really concentrate on. And there's definitely going to be more videos coming. I hope that you guys have a good night, good day, wherever you are. Peace.